Hello my crafty friends, welcome to today's card making video. Recently I have been wanting to do more stamping. I've just felt like I haven't spent enough time with my stamps lately. So I flicked through my Rose's Studio stamp set collection and I grabbed one that had butterflies on it because I can always do something with butterflies. To keep things simple, I decided to work straight on a card blank, so I have a 4x6-inch-ish card blank here, made from smooth white card, and I'm creating a border all the way around the outside with some skinny washi tape. This is probably just under a centimetre wide, I think. And next I grabbed the butterfly stamps and stamped them all over the exposed area of card using StazOn. And I chose StazOn because it is a waterproof permanent ink and I knew I wanted to add colour with water-based mediums. This is a new stamp set that I've not used before, so I prepped my stamps by just rubbing them with my finger to get off anything left over from the manufacturing process. I then test stamped them on a piece of card, and when I was happy that they were going to give me a good image, I stamped them on my card blank. And I started with the largest butterfly. I think it's a good idea to put your large shapes down first because you can then fit in your smaller shapes around them. And then I added the smaller butterfly in the gaps, and then I filled any remaining gaps with the 3 flowers from the stamp set. Now StazOn is a really quick drying ink. It was dry within seconds. It was dry on the card and on the washi tape within seconds of stamping, so I didn't have to heat it with my heat tool or anything. I was able to get straight on with colouring, and to colour my butterflies and flowers I used Catherine Polar dye inks, and I chose these because dye inks are translucent inks. If I'd used something more opaque like a Distress Oxide, the opaque part of the ink would have sat on top of the black inking and would dull it down, and I didn't want that, so translucent dye inks were the way to go. For this first card I wanted a really vibrant, energetic effect, so I decided to go with smushing. I used my mini smusher to give me some accuracy, and I put the ink on my glass mat, sprayed it with some water, picked it up with the smusher and smushed it on. I didn't dry it between each colour because I was quite happy for the colours to mix a bit. I did dry the whole thing after I'd done the smushing because I wanted to do some splattering and I wanted my splatters to remain defined rather than diffuse. For my splatters, I smushed the colour onto my glass mat again and diluted it, not with water this time, but with white pearl shimmer spray. I then picked it up with a paintbrush and spattered it on. I spattered the blue over the blue, the pink over the pink, and the yellow over the yellow, not worrying if they mixed and mingled a bit. Once I was happy with all my smushing and all my spattering, I gave it a good dry with my hairdryer and then carefully removed the washi tape. The trick with this is to go slow, peel the washi tape away from your image, and maybe heat it with a hairdryer or heat tool to soften the adhesive on the back. And I think this is my favourite part of the whole process, the reveal. When you peel that tape off and you get those beautiful crisp edges and can see the finished image in its totality. To create a sentiment, I used one of the stamps from the stamp set. It says, "Here for you always." I stamped it on that scrap of white card that I'd done my test stamping on. And then I trimmed it out with my scissors to give it a nice beveled edge to make it look as if it had been die cut rather than scissor cut. I went all the way around the outside with my edge beveling tool, and I popped this on a little bit of foam tape, just 1mm deep, to give it a little bit of lift, and placed it in the top right corner. And for a finishing touch, I added some Morning Dew Nouveau drops to the butterflies' bodies. These will dry clear and just add a bit of dimension and gloss. So that was the first card of the day made. Do stick around to the end of the video because I'll be sharing close-ups of each card that I made so you can see the detail. For this second card, I decided to create a funnel or cone shape of colour and butterflies on the front of my card. So I masked off an area with some masking tape. And then I took the same Catherine Pooler inks. I've got It's a Girl, Cummerbund and Shea Butter. And I created blocks of colour overlapping simply by gently pressing down the ink pads onto the card. Beauty of dye inks is, as I said earlier, they're translucent, and when they overlap each other they create a new colour. So I've got the 3 original colours, then lots of different colours where the rectangles overlap. And once I got my rectangles down, I stamped my butterflies all fluttering in an upwards direction. Again, I started with the large butterfly, then I did the small butterfly, then I filled in the gaps with flowers. After I peeled off the masking tape, I stamped my sentiment, a little hello, along the bottom edge. I did decide I wanted to add some shimmer and shine, so I covered up the white portions with some scrap paper and spritzed on my white pearl pigment shimmer powder and gave everything a good dry. On to cards 3 and 4 now. I took some masking paper, which is low tack sticker paper really, and used a large butterfly die to cut out a large butterfly, funnily enough. I then stuck this onto one of my card blanks. And then I used the outside portion, the leftover bit, on another card blank so that my butterfly looked as if it was coming in from the side of the card. For this card I decided to do ink blending, so I used the same Catherine Pooler inks again and blended them over the body of the butterfly, trying to get some nice colour blends where the colours overlapped. I wanted to go for quite a pastel look, which is why I'm using lighter ink colours. Once I'd done the blending, I did the stamping again, big butterfly, small butterfly, teeny tiny flowers. And to add shimmer and shine to this card, I spattered on some gold metallic paint, dried it with my hairdryer, and then removed the masking paper. This particular masking paper tends to come off quite easily once you've heated it with your heat tool. The adhesive softens nicely. I then set that aside and worked on the other one. And I decided to go in with my big smusher, and I put the colours on the mat again, and instead of hydrating them with water I used my pearl pigment powder spray. And I made sure to get colour all the way around the edge of the butterfly, even on the back of the card, blending the colours here and there. I stamped my butterflies and my flowers again in the same way, spattered on some gold, dried it all with my hairdryer, and then removed the mask. For my sentiment, I stamped "The little things you do make such a difference" in the open body of the butterfly, and on the other big butterfly card, card number 3, I added a little hello and curved the sentiment a little bit on my stamp block so that it curved along the edge of the butterfly's wing. There you go, that is 4 cards made using 1 stamp set, 3 ink colours plus black, and a bit of shimmer and shine. I hope you've enjoyed the video. I hope it's given you some ideas. You know the drill if it has. Let me know in the comments. Leave a thumbs up. Subscribe if you want to see more from me, and I will see you back here very soon for another video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye for now.